Hello. Today we're going to explore something that's deeply personal and honestly often a really painful dynamic that can show up in a relationship. We're talking about what happens when one partner is sick and vulnerable and the other, well, they just seem to disappear. We're going to look at a specific story to really understand the psychology behind this and talk about a path toward building a more supportive partnership.
Okay, let's just dive right in. I'm going to read the experience that prompted this entire explainer. These are the exact words from the person who shared their story. Hello, I am a 25-year-old woman and I live with my boyfriend, 27. Everything is fine, except when I get sick. The whole house is sinking. He doesn't touch anything, otherwise he runs another vacuum cleaner. He only picks up the dishes from the table. Crumbs, pots, glasses remain where they were. I asked him to go to the pharmacy. For 2 hours, he couldn't bring himself to go. He complained to me for 30 minutes about his work. 30 minutes he was in the toilet. 30 minutes talking to colleagues. 30 minutes getting dressed and walking around the apartment aimlessly. All this time, I have a temperature of 38.5 and terrible stomach pains. I tell him this because I know that if you don't tell men a few times, they won't notice, but this only happens when I'm sick. Otherwise, he is ready to go anywhere as long as I'm not in bed. I got up and finished everything because I'm not comfortable living like this, and he just said to me, "Have you cleaned up?" I can't understand why he only behaves like this when I'm bad. Yes, he's used to me doing the housework at home, but when you see your loved one really can't get out of bed, won't you feel like it's your turn to do something? I'm confused, and I know that when the kids come, it'll be like this too.
Wow. Just hearing that, you can feel the pain, right? The frustration, and that really profound sense of being utterly alone. If you've ever felt anything like this, please just know your feelings are so valid. It is an incredibly isolating thing to go through. And that really is the heart of it, isn't it? The unwashed dishes, the 2-hour wait for the pharmacy, those are just the symptoms. The real issue, the thing that truly hurts, is that feeling of being completely invisible and uncared for at the exact moment you need that care the most. It feels like a breakdown in the fundamental promise of a partnership. So, what is going on here? Why does a partner who might be totally caring otherwise suddenly seem to withdraw? Well, it's rarely as simple as them just not caring. It's often a much more complex, internal reaction that we really need to understand. So, let's take a look at what might be happening on a psychological level. So, let's try to get inside the partner's potential inner world for a second. It's possible they genuinely don't grasp how serious the situation is. Or if they're used to a certain routine where their partner handles most things at home, a direct request for help can weirdly feel like a command, which makes them resist. And this is a big one. They might just be reacting to their own discomfort. The helplessness of seeing someone they love in pain or the sudden pressure of new responsibilities. A lot of the time, this isn't a conscious choice to be neglectful, but more of an unconscious defensive reaction. And that brings us to a really critical distinction we have to make. It is so tempting to just label this behavior as simple laziness. But we're being encouraged here to look a bit deeper and to separate it from something that's actually more concerning, a potential lack of empathy. Yeah, look at this comparison. The difference is absolutely crucial. Laziness? We all have lazy days. It's totally normal. It's a temporary thing, and it usually affects low priority stuff, like putting off laundry for another day. But a lack of empathy, well, that's different. It's a pattern that shows up specifically in these moments of need. It's about neglecting a partner when they're vulnerable, and that can reveal a much deeper, more troubling disconnect in the relationship. So, understanding the problem is the first step, but of course, it's not enough. The good news is that this kind of pattern can be addressed. There is a constructive solution, but it's one that's going to require a whole new approach to communication and to setting expectations. The source material suggests a pretty clear 3-step strategy. First, you've got to reframe how you even talk about this issue. Second, you proactively create what we'll call a crisis plan for when these situations happen. And third, and this might be the most important one, you have to establish your own personal boundaries. Let's really focus on that first step. Instead of saying something like, "You never help me," which immediately puts the other person on the defensive, you try framing it around your own feelings. Using "I feel" statements, just like the one you see here, isn't about blaming anyone. It's about vulnerably sharing your emotional state and clearly saying what you need. It's an invitation for empathy, not a demand for compliance. Now, step 2 is about being really practical. A crisis plan basically removes all the guesswork and the potential for a fight when you're already feeling awful. You sit down when you're both calm and you agree on a simple plan. Who's going to get the medicine? Who makes sure there's some easy food around? The whole point here is to make the act of supporting each other automatic, instinctual, not something you have to argue about every single time someone gets sick.
And this leads us right into step 3, boundaries. Now, this part is about you. You have to decide for yourself what is and what is not acceptable for your own well-being. Is it okay for you to have to drag yourself out of a sickbed to clean up? If the answer is no, then that becomes a boundary. And this isn't an ultimatum. It's an act of self-respect, and it's absolutely essential for a healthy, balanced relationship. Okay, let's zoom out for a minute and think about the long-term view here, because this isn't just about getting through the flu. This pattern of behavior is often a pretty clear preview of how a partnership is going to handle future and much more significant challenges. And this really gets to the core warning. As the original writer noted, this kind of imbalance, it can become a massive dramatic problem when bigger responsibilities like children or other life crises come into the picture. The need for mutual support only gets more intense over time. So dealing with this dynamic now is really an investment in the future health of your relationship. So we're going to end with this thought. A common illness is, in a way, a low-stakes test of a relationship's support system. The way a partnership handles these small crises can tell you a whole lot about how it might handle the big ones. It's a question that's really worth reflecting on, not to create fear, but to inspire an honest conversation and a real commitment to building a partnership that truly provides care when it is needed most.